The content discussed in this episode is for educational or informative purposes only and should not be replaced by individualized professional consultations or professional medical advice. Hey guys, I'm Tasha.
Hey listeners, this is Guni.
And you're tuned in to Doshas the podcast, where we chat and explore all things on integrative medicine. So we have a special guest with us today. Her name is Angela Schroeder. She is a qualified Ayurvedic practitioner, reflexologist, a mother, and a successful IT consultant. She specializes in bringing holistic and mindful leadership methods to the corporate workplace through combining her knowledge in project management and human capital development methodologies with her knowledge in Ayurveda. So welcome to Doshas the podcast, Angela. We are super eager and excited for our conversation with you today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I know Guni and I have been talking to you for a bit. Could you share with our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay. So I started my Ayurvedic journey around 10 years ago. Prior to that, I've been in IT for about 12 years. I've been a reflexologist for 15 years since. And it began with Abhyanga massage, combining that with reflexology outside of in my corporate job, which I then went back to. So I'm a Workday IT project manager, for those of you out there that know what that is. It's a cloud-based system. So in having to do this for my lifestyle, I brought in what I've learned since. So it's been very much IT and then having time off to have my children. So I have two boys who are 10 and 15. So I'm also a mum, businesswoman and an Ayurvedic practitioner now. Yoga meditation also helped me very much so in the last 6 years. So nice. I practice what I preach. I do that. I can't cope doing all of this without what I've learned.
I like how you're so versatile.
It's well, probably a bit crazy.
No, I don't think so. This probably gives you a lot of insight to a lot of things. So in the corporate side, like with your Ayurvedic background, can you tell us a bit more about what you do there?
Yes. So although when I'm at a company in a corporate capacity, I'm a project manager, I also run wellbeing programs. So I was at Accenture for a year. I ran their wellbeing program. And so that was a mixture of teaching yoga, teaching body meditation techniques, having people come in to do talks about different modalities. I called it a digital detox. And everything was related around not doing anything on the phone or on the computer, which is obviously very much part of everybody's life. But to teach everyone to just disconnect from the tech and connect to each other and connect to ourselves, to become more aware of how we feel. Because as you know, when we've got too much stress and too much cortisol and all those stressy chemicals going around the body, we disconnect, so we don't feel how we are. And the brain is doing that so that we can continue to do our job. But we do need to disconnect from that so that we can connect to ourselves again.
Yeah.
To what extent were you able to share the knowledge of Ayurveda in this wellness program, for example?
Yeah, so the talk that I did, I called it Food for the Soul. So I took in some samples of food, all the 6 tastes, so that everybody can understand. That it's the satisfaction of life, that it's the satisfaction also of what we eat, and in those is the 6 tastes. So I just took in some little samples and some tulsi tea and some chai, and just to, for the doshas, which I'll talk about in a moment. So certain doshas might like sweet, others might not, others might need heat and spice, and some might need cooling down. So it was just to explain in an experience. And I think the way to approach the corporate audience through holistic practices is to show them the experience. That's the best way that I found. And then there isn't any argument, because people will give you a testimonial based on how they feel.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
Because now if I were to, so in my corporate journey or my career path, so when I was in the corporate, I did a leadership program. And one of the first things that they ask you is personality assessment. Those very expensive ones that are basically, there's like the disc and they, which color you are. And the idea is to get to know yourself so that you can then be able to manage teams effectively. Then they kind of go on in explaining to you how to manage your stakeholders, etc. But really there's like a big emphasis on getting to know yourself. And as I transitioned to being an entrepreneur and going through this path where I see things a bit more holistically, I try to manage teams as well in a more holistic way. And so I do think, because I have a bit of a background in Ayurveda, I do see my team members with their doshas. So I'm looking at them and I'm like, oh, okay, so
What do you see?
I'm thinking at Tasha, like knowing Tasha, I asked her to do a test that she might be Pitta Kapha, and so I would approach her very differently from somebody who is like, for example, Diana, who's a bit more of a Vata, and I always kind of do it without them really knowing. But I'm thinking, with your line of work, have you come across kind of being able to help teams or managers to kind of incorporate some bit of Ayurveda in the way they manage their teams?
I have, very much so. So the program that I ran at Accenture, I did a talk to the team. So this was a team of IT, Workday Cloud-based consultants. Yeah. And I gave them all the dosha quiz so that they worked out what their dosha was, so that they could understand what they were. And of course, they're all teammates. Yeah. So then I'd also presented to them about how the doshas work. So, Vata, looking at the physiology, very slim, slight, small bones, think like a bird, think of the element of air, talked about the elements, the 5 elements and the 3 doshas. So Vata is air, then we've got the Kapha and the fire. And as you and I know, that who've studied Ayurveda, fire is very much those that are in the business world, because we tend to be very organized, like teachers, lawyers, doctors, IT professionals, managers. So our digestive fires, that fire in our belly, our desire for this is very ordered. So we like to learn things. So conditions apply to people that are Pitta. So Vata, it's very, very quick chat, tend to be sales-based and creative people. And Pitta would be fire and organized. And the Kapha would be just maybe in a support capacity, more of the nurturer. The curly hair, big eyes, they like the sweetness of life.
I'm laughing because I keep on telling her, sorry, we're digressing a little bit here, but difficult part about identifying someone's dosha is to be accurate. And so you have tests that can help you, but I think that those elements you were talking about kind of help reemphasize your, like, if they are really Pitta or Kapha, etc. And so I kept on saying to Tasha, there is a lot of Kapha in you, like potentially you don't recognize, but there's also a lot of Pitta. But so when you were saying curly hair,
I was like, did you just see me and tell me this?
You should just describe Tasha, basically.
I mean, I've done the dosha quiz before, and so like I think I got Kapha Pitta, but I'm always questioning myself. I do it like every few years once as well, and then I get like slightly different answers, but Kapha is always there, so I know that's true.
Because we're born with our Prakriti. Our Prakriti is our thumbprint. That's us as a unique being. We come into the world, we are a balance of the 5 elements with 2 dominant doshas. We're always a mix of all 3. Some people are a balance of all 3. They tend to be very peaceful people, like monks, and when you're in the presence of someone that is tridosha balance, you just feel so good, so calm. And it's rare, but it does happen. Right. And I think when we're all on the quest to achieve a balance of corporate and family and life and getting to know ourselves, it's important to understand. So we're born with our Prakriti, and then when we come out of balance, because we've got pressures and stress and the chaos of life, that we get out of balance, and that's called our Vikruti. So that's when your dosha may change. So, and those periods of time is when you become a mum. Obviously, you naturally become more Kapha. So your hormones change. So you physically change inside. So, and then once your children start to grow up, you go back to your Prakriti, you go back to balance. If you're finding that a challenge, you might want to visit an Ayurvedic practitioner and do a quiz. You can do the quizzes for yourself, but it's never the same as somebody reading your pulses, looking at your tongue.
Right, because there's different ways to identify your dosha, right? So you said there would be like kind of lifestyle questions. Then there would be your pulse,
Yeah.
your tongue.
Yeah.
What anything else I'm missing?
I would talk about diet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would talk about someone's diet. I would talk about how do you like to eat, and that comes back full circle to what we were just saying. So a Vata person would like crispy, crunchy food, and they would eat like a bird, little and often. Pitta person likes, the spice. They like the hot, spicy food, and they like it. If I were to say to you, "Are you hungry?"
I'm always hungry.
Okay, right, I have an idea. But a very Pitta person will look at their watch and they'll think, is it the time? Is it the right time?
But it's what I was going to say. Oh my God.
She has the microphone in her hand.
Exactly. So I might have said, oh wait, is it really time to eat now? But so I have a mix of both.
Yeah. So the agony, which is the digestive fires, that's the word for fire, needs to be fired up every 6 hours. We need to keep eating. So if you're out of balance with your dosha, make sure that you're eating every 6 hours. So for someone that's more kapha, again, they would like more sweet and sticky foods, and they can actually go all day to like just after lunchtime without eating, and then they may have like 1 or 2 meals a day, but actually they need more of a kick. So for someone that's sort of stuck in the kapha, I would do some abhyanga massage, the tapping, cupping, get the stimulation. I would do some prana kriya exercises, get jumping up and down, move the energy in the dosha, because in the kapha, it just gets really calm and steady. But if you're managing someone that's kapha, you kind of need chop, chop. I'm clapping my hands with the speaker here, but it's more of a motivation. How do I motivate this person so that they feel good about what they're doing, and I can help them on that journey to getting things done? So someone that's kapha, I would repeat what I'm saying, because the memory is slower. Think like an elephant. An elephant never forgets, but it might need to have done it a few times.
Can you relate to this?
Stop looking at me every single time.
So kapha side of me is I need to repeat. So if I learn things, and as I'm getting older, coming to learning new things, like I learned an IT system when I was really young called PeopleSoft. I did 12 and a half years. I was at the top of my game. Then I had 9 years off to have my children, and I learned all of the holistic things in the meantime, which I loved, and I had space in my brain, so my head was clear. And then I went back to doing something for Workday, and it nearly killed me, because it was just like I had to repeat before I could actually get this around in my head. And now 2014, now I'm project managing, I've got it, and I will never forget it, because that's part of my dosha.
Now it's in your DNA.
It's in my DNA. So never think, because when people and Ayurvedic doctors talk about the doshas, we tend to talk about kapha. Everyone goes, oh, I don't want to be kapha, but actually we need that loving, the nurturing, the caring, and in our teams as managers, it's really important. But to also understand that business is business, and so we need the fire for the movement. So
it's spacer. I like to say, because I know I'm predominantly pitta, but it's interesting that you're saying, for example, for kapha, you need to give a framework.
I would give a framework. I would give an action list. I would give them a deadline, and I pop them reminders. And in the conversation, I would repeat a few times what you've asked them to do, and make sure that either you've written it down and send it to them, or that they've written it down for themselves.
So they assimilate the information in different format. Okay.
When you say kapha, is there some element of Ayurveda that could address or talk about the level of like pressure and stress in the moment, that they would react slower to the stress and pressure?
Yeah, and again, I think if you find that you're at a place in your career where you're feeling unsettled, and you were, for example, a kapha dosha, you might find that you're not in the right job. That you might want to do something that is more of a nurturing type of, or you might be ready to be a mum, or you might just find that you need a different way of coming to life. So you have something where you've got impact. So you would do some kriya, and then the kriyas, we use breath and sound and movement. So, and we jump up and down. So we need that stimulation, and also water, swimming, walking outdoors, get your shoes off outdoors, anything where you're going to connect in. So if you think what the elements are, so if which I've not talked about yet, so kapha dosha is earth and water. So we're physically very grounded. That's what makes us nice to be around, because we're nice and calm, and people gravitate to us kind of like magnets, and we hold space for people.
That's right.
So that you want those people in your team, because they're going to be people that are going to be there. They're rock solid. They're never going to let you down. They're going to get it done, but they might just take their time about it.
Yeah.
So get them up and running, moving. maybe have some team building activities, get people into the places where you're working and say, right, lunchtime, we're going to do some movement. We're going to do not just slow, steady breathing. You need to get up and moving around. Even have some walking meetings, go out.
Okay, that's
get
interesting.
outdoors.
Yeah.
So talking about stress, which of the doshas is the most receptive to stress?
Pitta,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And how does it show up?
Because if you're already fiery, if you're pitta and you're fiery, you're business minded. But if your environment is pushing you and pushing you and pushing you, you tip over the edge with your stress levels, so the fire hits the roof, if you like. So you become too hot internally, and then that manifests in a bad temper, being grumpy. You really need to eat when you need to eat, otherwise everybody knows about it. Right. Yeah, and you know, they tend to be very athletic people, so from a physiological point of view, they're very fit. They like to keep fit, they like to look good, and that's very much part of the pitta lifestyle. But you know, we're all, don't forget, a mix of all three. There's something in them, but we're drawn naturally because we're born with those qualities. So always learn to love what you are, and if you feel that you're out of balance, come along and do a quiz, you know, and come and meet an Ayurvedic doctor, have a chat, talk about what you're eating, and it might be, you might surprise yourself. You might think, actually, I thought I was this, but really I'm not. Or actually, really right now, I'm just a bit out of balance. So I might need to cool down my pitta. I might need, you know, some coriander water in the morning for a couple of weeks, just to start cooling down the digestive fires, eliminate the chilies and the alcohol and the stimulants, cool down the liver, just for a period of time. And then you will know, and everyone around you will know that and then you'll land again. And some meditation again.
And so comparing to kapha, where you were saying that you need more movement and get that pace going for them, for pitta, which is already kind of on the go, and so it's kind of a calmer.
Meditation, swimming and walking, or walking by water is a really good idea.
So it's exactly what I'm doing. I have stopped eating spicy food because my environment is already providing that stress element, so I don't need a added point. And then I love walking by the water. I walk every day. So, and in terms of management, how do you manage a pitta person?
In a very orderly fashion. You know, a pitta person wants it straight down the line. So this is what I want, this is when I want it, you know, and this is what's going to happen after you've done this, because they need reward.
The objective.
So everybody needs motivation, but a pitta person will be naturally driven. When we think about the gunas, you know, rajasic, tamastic, so emotionally we've got our physical doshas with the elements, then we've got our emotions, which are what we call the gunas. So those elements of what we're eating, the qualities of the food. So, and that gets a bit more involved, which I won't go into but again, it's to talk about, even though you might eliminate things from your diet for a certain amount of time, to then look at what you're going to eat going forwards after you've done the balance, just to make sure that you maintain that balance. And then we've not really discussed vata. So a vata person who eats little and often might need reminding to eat, to keep the digestive fires up. They can get too airy and very anxious, and you'll know that because they'll chat non-stop, and you'll be like, just breathe. Just breathe. And they need to meditate and to stop, and maybe someone a vinyasa or a slow hatha practice.
And how do you manage a vata person?
Patience, again, because they're quick, give them lots to do. And if you want something done, ask a busy person, because they just get more and more organized. So the pitta influence on the vata is good because pitta is organized, and vata might start something not finish. So you need the balance of the pitta vata. So your vata person just needs reining in a bit. They'll be a visionary, they'll be creative, they'll have these wonderful ideas, but they need the kapha person to manifest them and to root them into the earth. Exactly.
So that's why you need everyone. You need kaphas, vatas, and pittas in a team. Because I can recognize this is that usually I have two creatives in the team that I know for sure are vatas, and I actually asked them to do a test recently, and it confirmed. And
you can tell she's
like, this information helps me guide them or manage them even better, so that they can
be the best that they can be.
Exactly, and not feel pressured, or because this was one thing I wanted to ask, for example, for the kapha, where you're going to give reminders and you at what extent does it become micromanagement? And
you just gauge that. So if they miss the deadline, then you know that you need to put a little bit more pressure on.
Right.
So you'll know from trying something, giving someone a chance. And then if they're not, then it's clear that they do need maybe everyday chats. Okay, what you're doing today, let's just take it on a daily basis.
Right. And what about the vata then?
A vata person, well, yeah, again, getting it finished. So they might be good at getting started, but they might not be good at following through. So again, give them a deadline and have a weekly meeting and say,
towards the end.
Yeah, maybe on a Thursday, just to say, right, okay, what's our deadlines for the end of the week? How far are you along with this? Have you started it? You know, because it might be good at the idea. And again, I'm really talking surface level here, you know, and I've experienced this in being out of balance with all of these doshas myself over my life. And I see it in my children, and I see it in my work colleagues and the people that I manage as a project manager. And we also have to be human. You know, we're not robots. You can't put this into AI.
For sure.
You know,
no way.
It won't work.
Even if even secretly it would be great. But,
like, you know, the human condition is the human condition, and we need the contact with each other.
Yeah.
And actually that's where the connection is that we talk to each other. There comes a time when you've had too many emails and you need a face-to-face conversation, even if it's have the camera on Zoom. It's really important to see people's body language. I had someone in a meeting that was like this, holding their head, and we've got a series of workshops coming up. They're long, they're going to be stressful, and I already pinged her to say, are you okay? And it's like after the meeting she's just like, I'm really tired. I'm like, right. So now I'm going to facilitate some breath work, even with people that have no idea what I'm doing. I will bring in some facilitation and some techniques. I will bring that. I already do that. I spent some time. I did some teaching in Milan and Shanghai and in big teams. And I've got everybody up, shoes off. Let's jump around. Eyes closed. Let's breathe. Different techniques that I'll bring in.
And how did they react?
They loved it because it's so different. And you get out of your head. And because you think in the office, what are you? You're in your brain because you have to be, because that's why you're there. And you move from the neck up, you know, not from the neck down.
Yeah, that's
so these exercises get you out of your head and they get people talking. So other workshops that I've run in Germany where you've got multilingual, where not everybody even speaks the same language. Their first language is different. I find that the people, when I've worked with these exercises, are confident enough to use a translator to then talk to the room.
Right.
And then you get all of the answers that you need. So you can use these holistic techniques in a business manner and they work. And I've seen it and I've done it and it works.
But I think like the key is that you need to know about those different doshas in a very in-depth way. You can't just read those
do a quiz and finish it off.
A quiz,
it's more than a quiz.
Exactly.
It's more than a quiz. And don't forget, I've been doing this a long time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And I've only recently, since actually adding the Kriya practices and the yoga to the depth that I've been to India and spent lots of time there in the last 6 years, that I really incorporate bringing that philosophy. As a teacher, I'm watching people's body language from all of the other modalities that I've added on to not just Ayurveda. So as a consultant, as a leader, leadership training, they teach you how to do all of this. But with this knowledge about Ayurveda, you can add that other level of being human to it. You can take people to one side and say, I can see you're struggling. You might be able to give them more information or get them together, group people together so that they work as a triad, if you like.
And even so, not only are you mixing teams according to the doshas, but you're also equipped enough to provide them tools and tips so that they can facilitate their lives in a more effective way.
Exactly, with that language. So somebody that's Vata, they're very good at sales, they're very good at charming, they've got the language, they can talk, that's fantastic for a Vata person. So put them in front of the clients.
Right.
They'll be amazing.
Yeah.
They'll get it done. They'll get that contract signed in that initial meeting. And then the follow through,
It's a couple.
you give it to the cover person, and the fitter person's doing the management.
Yeah.
Coordinating everything, making sure the fitter person gets it done and the cover person knows when it needs to be done by.
Right.
So, and I'm really simplifying it, but you could use that as a very basic model.
Yeah.
And is it something that you go into these corporate programs, right? And then you tell them, okay, so this is how I'm approaching it, or you do it kind of subtly in the background? No,
I wouldn't bring that into the conversation at all, because there's stigmas attached to anything holistic people don't understand. And especially with a fitter person who likes to analyze everything, they want to know why. So I don't say what it is. It's just part of who I am.
Yeah.
And I'll bring that in with the room, and people have an experience, and they come back for more. And the programs, I love doing them. And you see people really enjoy it. And that's the feedback from my point of view. But I wouldn't label it as Ayurveda. I would learn what you need to learn about yourself. And I would encourage you, if you are in business and a leader, to understand your team from the point of view of understanding yourself. And then you'll see where you fit in the picture, and that you can help them to maybe learn for themselves. Otherwise it becomes a bit dictatorial. Yeah. And we don't want to dictate, we want to serve. You know, what we've learned in Ayurveda, the science of life, the satisfaction, is to be here as a human, as to experience our present moment, to experience those elements in our body. What we are is this human being right now. So to nurture each other, to connect with each other, and to do that collectively. I can't stress that enough, especially with all of this going on. And then obviously we're on tech here right now, we're on Zoom, but it's great for you to be in the room with me.
So I guess in this context, what would you say to corporations or even team leaders? How could they start this process and incorporate this?
Well, you can reach out to me, and I can come in and have a chat with you guys and get the ball rolling in that sense. So it's a collaboration to come in, have a talk with an expert, learn the basics, start to learn about yourself. So top tips would be to book an appointment, work out your dosha if you like, and then you can then collaboratively help your team.
Yeah, and I think observing the way you lead your life, from the way you eat, your personality when you come across stress or across work, just observe yourself a lot more, so that you're able to even answer those questions.
Exactly.
Increasing your awareness, basically.
Exactly, that awareness. And in a perfect environment where everybody's balanced, it works. If you've been under stress for a long time and you've got lots of responsibility, you may need to just stop and consider, build up a meditation practice, some yoga, some kriya, adjust the diet. And you might even want to consider, massage, some abhyanga, or even a panchakarma treatment, which again is the whole half an hour or more on its own. That's where you completely detox the body. So,
okay. Yeah. Well, it was so nice to see Ayurveda in another setting, in a different lens, and it just reinforces kind of how these complementary and alternative healthcare systems are holistic, and it's not just for your health, it's from the way you lead your life, actually. So it was really interesting to have your take on this. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Angela. If you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and select that follow or subscribe button. For now, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.